let's take a break. I'm gonna take a healthy, much needed break away from everything, including my plants. In today's video, I'm gonna take you through the steps that I took to get ready to be away from my houseplants for 3 weeks. Here's a list of things that I'm going to do today and have already done. This is the biggest my collection has ever been, and also the neediest my collection has ever been. Let's see what I'm gonna do to help reduce the impact that time away will have on my plants. By the time you see this video, I would have already left and hopefully had a great time. Yeah, I hope so. And come back safely. Oh, by the way, if you're new, hi, my name is Stephanie. I live in Canada and I like making videos about how I care for my houseplants on a budget. So if that's something you think you might enjoy, stick around. I may have a few helpful points to share with you. Starting 6 weeks ago, I reduced my purchases. In December, I went on a no buy to try to slow everything down. Also, I did the bulk of my repotting a couple weeks in advance. That way, plants that I was worried about repotting, I had enough time with them to be able to eye them and make sure that they didn't go through any shock, and that way I was able to be with them while they would have gone through a little bit of a hard time, if any, right? I didn't want to repot and then ditch my plants. These are things that I try to do or get out of the way in advance. Just eyeball my plants and see which troublesome plants need any big adjustment so I can do them before I leave with time to keep an eye on them. So that's number one. Number two, another thing that I did was reduce the hours that my grow lights were on for. The reason I did this is in advance is because I wanted it, I should say, to be a gradual progression or a gradual reduction of the number of hours that my lights were on for. I didn't want to go from 12 to 8 in one big jump. That would shock my plants. And actually, that sort of accidentally happened with one of my plants, with my Pothos, and it struggled a little bit. I'll get into that a little bit later. Actually, no, I should have a care video or a repotting video where I talk about it. So I'll link it just because I don't want to make this video too long and too distracting with points everywhere. I'll talk about what happened with this guy in that one. Their timers were originally between 12 to 13 hours, just around there. So I reduced it, I think it was 13 hours. I reduced them from 13 hours to 10 hours. I would reduce it by 1 hour every weekish to 10 days or so. I didn't specifically time it like 1 week from now I will, but I just try to remind myself to reduce it by a little bit every weekish or so. That way, this will slow down how quickly my plants are using up their water, and this will sort of give them a gradual experience, like I said, instead of it being drastic and them going through shock. Because when I'm here, I'm able to eyeball my plants, take a look at them while they're on 13-hour timers. I can see which plant has less water and I can care for each plant individually. I want my plants to use up their reservoir a lot slower so that they will need less care. I mean, someone will be coming in to take a look at my plants while I'm gone. I'm gonna give that person as little work to do as possible. We went through slowing down my purchases, repotting troublesome plants early in advance, and reducing grow lights. So here we are, it's crunch time. I'm leaving in a couple of days, and today I have an agenda. So here's what I need to get finished off today. I am going to do a mass watering, filling up reservoirs, but first I'm going to look for very mossy reservoirs and I'm going to clean them out, just because I want to reduce any possibilities of any trouble with any of my plants, any root issues. I just want to give them a nice, clean, fresh start. And also when I come back, it's going to be really nice. Like, I think it's going to be nice to come back to like a nice clean looking bunch of reservoirs. And also for the person, my mom, who will be checking in on my plants, and possibly another friend who's going to be helping me out with them while I'm gone. Some of them, the indicators are quite mossy, and I don't want them to accidentally not water a plant that's in need of water because they're not able to clearly see the indicator. Like, I mean, I'm used to it just lifting a plant and shaking it up. I know my plants, but someone else doesn't know them like I I do. So I want to clean that out. Oh, I'm gonna wipe down my shelves and neatly place the plants in a way so that they're easily able to see every single plant and not accidentally miss a plant that may have needed some water. And also I don't want them to accidentally knock plants over in trying to reach for one in the back. So this is a very thorough process that I'm going to do. I just want my plants to receive the maximum care possible. I'm not saying that if you're traveling, you need to do all of these very specific things. I want them to feel as little as possible of the effects of me not being present. So that's something else I'm going to do. I'm going to also, one more thing, remove lots of dead foliage, because dead foliage is a great place for pests to breed. So I'm going to clean them up nicely, and that is what we are going to do together. I'm glad you're here with me. Thank you for being here. And we have a sunny day. So I thought, let's make the most of this sunny day and get this stuff done. Let's get started. Let's go. I'm so glad to have the most beautiful day to do this. Ah, the sunshine, the sunshine. Okay, this plant, I gave it some water yesterday because they were desperate. Like, they desperately needed some water. So I did this. I also watered these. So that's the thing. That's the tricky part sometimes about when you're traveling and you need to water your plants before you leave. Sometimes what happens is that you may have needed to water them a few days before you leave. And so you want to have them, allow them to be as freshly watered as possible before you have to leave. So sometimes it's tricky because then you don't want to give them water again right before, because you don't want to overwater them. But again, that's what I love about self-watering pots, because you're not wetting the roots again. You're just refilling reservoirs. So that's what I love. Anyways, this plant looks good. Just taking off all the yellowing looking leaves, all the ones that most likely will retire while I'm gone. Oh, I forgot to mention in my intro, I'm going to be doing pest treatments as well. I'm going to spray everything down for pests. This will likely be my final step of to everything, because I don't want to have to go back at my plants again and touch them with the pest treatment on them. So that's going to be the last step. I think this would be a lot of light for this plant if I put it here, but I wanted to reach up here. You know what? I am right. That is too much light, and this will dry out super fast. This is not in a self-watering pot. It's just in like a reservoir, and it's a Syngonium red spot tricolor, and this thing dries out so fast. I gave it a lot of water last night and it's still drying out. I won't give it any water yet. I will wait until the day before I leave and I will fill that up. So I think I'm gonna pop it right here, because this is a west facing window and it's still gonna be a lot of light, but at least it's gonna be less than if it was here closer to the south window. I should have gone in there with my watering can to water these plants immediately, but I didn't, but that's okay. Right, so the story I wanted to tell you about this Pothos is that even if these Sansi lights have built-in timers, I prefer using timers that I can control on my phone with my smart plug, but I needed the smart plug for another area, so I took them off of the smart plug and used the Sansi timer, but I put the timer too low. So I think the Sansi timer has maybe 8, 10, 12. I put it for 8. I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. And yeah, the plant, it was too little light and this window was closed, so the plant lost, when I tell you, a lot of leaves. So this is why you shouldn't drastically change the light, even on a Pothos. So I'm just removing all dead foliage that I'm seeing, and I would need to clean out reservoirs before I can add fresh water. Like, look at this reservoir, see? Gonna cut out browning leaves as well, but not too many, because if you cut off too many leaves on this plant, even if the leaves are browning, it goes through shock. So I don't want to cut off too many, just like the yellowing ones, like these. Okay, so these are good. I just need to tidy up shelves. So I think it's time to just start cleaning off shelves now and reservoirs. Fun. All right, it's time to wipe down my shelves, and I'm going to disinfect them. So I'm just using just your typical household disinfectant mixed with some water and just wiping down the shelves with them. And I'm going to take some of the plants off and also weigh them just with my hands, just to see if they need water, because not all my plants are in self-watering pots. One of the reasons I'm really weighing them and checking how much water they have left is because a week ago I did a test. So when I reduced my grow lights to 10 hours, I filled up all of my plants with water, and I decided 1 week later I'm going to test and see how much water the plants used up with 10 hours of grow light. So this is just me showing roots are finally coming out of the reservoir for this Heuchkeliana super silver. And I was pleasantly surprised to know that a lot of the plants still had lots of water left in their reservoirs. My plants in water have been losing a lot of leaves, especially if I don't leave them in this plant room that's nice and warm. Just checking the undersides of the leaves for pests. Nothing, but some leaves do need clipping off. These magnets are so strong, so strong. This plant bloomed, this Hoya bloomed, and so it dropped a bunch of the blooms down. These, so you can't see into the res. You can't see. So we're gonna have to get an old toothbrush and scrape out. Slow but steady. Oh my goodness, which leaves did I want? New leaf. Isn't that gorgeous? Hoya globulosa. Love it. Very slow grower, but beautiful plant. Look at that. Ah, so pretty. My propagations need fresh water. They need to be, the moss needs to be taken care of. I think this plant is better propagated in sphagnum moss. It is so slow in water. That's my varicosum. A nice clear indicator. This is what I want. New growth. Yay. This is a Hoya Micheli splash, or yeah, Micheli. Roots coming down. Yay. We've done all the wiping. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to use these sticky tags and I'm going to label or indicate where I want the reservoir to be. So when my mom or my friend comes in to refill the reservoir for these plants that are in no drainage, I want them to have a visual instead of guessing or putting too much or too little. I'm gonna help them know where I want it to be. I want the res. This is my Alocasia. My roots are right around here. So I will tell them to put the res right under where the roots are. So I don't want them going past this spot. So right here. This plant, I really wish I could get it to grow all the leaves facing forward. It's gonna be a struggle to get that executed because I have all the leaves sort of facing out, but they all want to reach for the light that way. Let's not change things up too much. This plant, I want the reservoir to be again just below the roots. So the roots are just about here. So just finding where the roots, bottom of the roots are. The thing about this plant also is that it dries out super fast. So I don't want to put this label too low. You know, I want to keep it at a nice height. So it's pushing up 2 inflows. No, I don't want it to. Whatever, I'll leave it for now. So this plant, the res looks good. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna add water to it. Instead of toss everything out, I'm just gonna add a little bit of water. This plant, in order to root nicely, it needs really bright light. So that's why it's shoved in the back here. These already have water in it. It just, part of me just feels like I should just give it fresh water. Just toss out all the waters and give them all fresh water. So I just have a pump at the bottom. Yep, you can see. I'm just gonna put it in. Okay, nice fresh reservoir. It fills it up without overflowing it. That looks pretty. Clean reservoir looks so good. I think it's officially time to start reservoir cleaning. This was actually the least fun part of this entire project. Cleaning out every single reservoir was so much work, and my mom was like, you should be cleaning them every once in a while so that way it's not a big job to do all of them all at once. And so, you know, she may have some words of wisdom there, something I'll definitely need to implement in the future. And I think also when you get a little lazy, or I should say when I get a little lazy and I top water, it really starts to put a lot of muck into the reservoirs. If you're curious about the plants that I'm working with today, or all of the plants in fact, and their names, etc., I have an entire collection video that I recently filmed. It is the video maybe 2 videos ago. Feel free to check out that video. I'll link it down below. If you've already watched that video, thank you so much for taking the time to do that. It was a lot of work and effort to film and edit and produce this video, so thank you so much for taking the time to watch that video. You might have noticed that I'm not only cleaning out the reservoir and scrubbing it out, I'm also taking the opportunity to clean the wick. Sometimes wicks can get super slimy and grimy, so I'm using that opportunity to just clean it a little bit. And I didn't mention this before, but I used a little tiny bit of disinfectant on my sponge. This sponge, just so you know, is not being used for anything else. This is its dedicated use, but I'm using some disinfectant just because I don't want anything to sort of pass over between plants, between reservoirs, but not too much to hopefully stay in the pots, but just enough to hopefully eradicate anything that may be in the reservoirs. I'm also using this opportunity to flush out some of my plants in semi-hydro. So any of my plants in pond or in leca or in just perlite, I'm using this opportunity to just flush everything out. And also some of my plants, when I was potting them up, I made the mix just a little too chunky, and sometimes the wick can have a hard time absorbing or pulling up water and keeping that substrate hydrated. So I'm just giving it a little bit of a head start by watering them from the top. Here's my face again. I'm back. We're doing well. Now it's time to fertilize and water most of the plants. So if you look in the distance, you will see my bottle that already has all of my fertilized water in it. I was very tempted to just give them plain water, but I was thinking, you know what, they're all beautifully clean, they're not all nice and clean, might as well give them nice fresh fertilized water, give them an honest refresh, just toss it out and refresh it, just because that will give them fresh oxygen. It gives them the best start possible while I'm gone. I don't have to worry about anything. Almost done. I also sprayed some pest treatment while they were in the tub. I just figured doing it that way would just be so much faster and easier to just treat them all that way. And my plants don't currently have pests. If they did have pests, I would have done a much deeper treatment, you know, making sure I was going under every single leaf and giving them all like heavy treatment. But because this was just a preventative treatment, I just gave them a very mild spray, and I did it in the tub that way I could easily just clean up the tub afterwards. The thing about self-watering pots is if you top water, a lot of the plants could possibly, like not could, a lot of the elements from the soil or from your medium will filter down into the cover pot, making them so much more gross. Ideally, I want bigger plants in the back and the shorter plants in the front. So let's see how that goes. I'll just give it fresh water. The reservoir thankfully is not that bad, so I'm just gonna give it fresh water. I've noticed with a lot of Hoya, or with a lot of plants in general, even if the reservoir still has water in it, it's still a really good idea to just freshen it up. I'm not going to have this expectation of my mom and my friend to freshen up reservoirs. That's definitely something I can do myself when I get back. When I'm gone, no reservoirs need to be refreshed. They just need to be topped up, and hopefully with the grow lights set to, I think, 10 hours, I really hope that that would be enough time. That would give them at least 2 weeks. So this plant, if you notice, I gave it a good watering from the top to flush out the pon. It lives in pon. And now that the roots have pushed out into the reservoir, the new growth is coming in so nicely. Slowly, but nicely. The only thing about these pumps is that they are painfully slow. Well, not all of them. My mom's is painful. It's really, really slow. I got 2 pumps. One was much faster than the other for some reason, from the same company, but one, and I thought it was the battery, maybe that needed charging, but nope. One was just much faster than the other. Man, I would love to have like a much bigger version of this plant. It was growing really well, and then it sort of stopped. It just stopped. I don't know what it is. There are some plants that can tolerate lower light, but when they're juvenile, they really want higher amounts of light. And this is one of them. This really should go in my Hoya cabinet downstairs. Oh my goodness, we did all of this and we have not even gone to my Hoya cabinet downstairs yet. This is gonna be a long video. I have another long trip planned at the ending, well, not at the ending, but towards the second half of the year. And knowing my very selective memory, I probably am not gonna remember all of this information. So this is not only for your benefit, it's also for mine. I am gonna log it all on here in one concise place. It's a good idea to put the plants that you know are gonna go through all of their water in the front, and then the other ones in the back. It's a good idea. All right, here's the look of our shelf so far. Not bad. Hoya Rhyme Splash. I think it's out to get me. I'm pretty sure it's rotted in here. I'm pretty sure. But you know what? It's gonna stay like that. not bad at all. I like it. As you can imagine, I could not finish or do all of this in one day. I think it spanned over 3 or 4 days. So this is, I think, the final day. The last thing I wanted to do was spray down for pests. I want these to be as freshly treated as possible before my departure. So this is just me spraying down my big plants. I sprayed down everything, but I just captured my fiddly fig, my Ficus tineke, and my Adansonia that's on my table. And I'm using this opportunity to also clip off all of the yellowing leaves, even if they're not fully yellow, but leaves that could possibly become yellow while I'm away. I'm just gonna get rid of all of them right now and just heavily spray down all of these plants. I'm curious, what are your top tips for preparing your plants for time away without you? Let us know in the comment section down below. Also, stay tuned for the next part of this video where I will give you a walkthrough on how my plants are looking when I come back. Oh boy. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.